Well, guys, thank you for joining me yet again for another Chef Look Cooks in my beautiful home. Today we're gonna make some bao. And notice I didn't say bao buns, although bao buns is classically how they are said. Bao actually means bun. So when you say bao buns, it's like bun bun, which is fine. They're so dang cute, you might as well call them something like that. Anyways, today we're gonna do a really unique filling, one of my favorite pizza toppings. Very contentious, but that's okay. I don't mind the hate. We're gonna do pineapple and ham, and for me, I like some pickled jalapenos on there as well. So we're gonna pop them in there with some cheese. Definitely not something you're gonna see everywhere, but good gosh, is it delicious? And so without further ado, we're gonna get started. As per usual, mise en place is the name of the game. Mise en place meaning everything in its place. If you take a little look here, you see I've got literally everything in its place. I've got my mixing bowl, the pan I'm going to use. I got my steamer and my two steamer layers here. And if you take a peek over here, I've got all my ingredients. I've already got my leftover ham there that I cut off, about a pound there. All the things we're going to need to put in, cornstarch for our slurry that's going to eventually thicken our sauce. Basically everything that we need right in one place. So I don't have to move or leave or do anything. The one thing that I did that I cheated on a little bit for this is I already went ahead and put my yeast and my sugar and my water in a bowl and started letting it come to life and start to foam so that we could jump right into the dough. We're actually going to do that right now. We're going to jump right into the dough. We're going to get that going so that it has a chance to incorporate and knead. It is quite a long knead, about a 20-minute knead. So while that's kneading, we're going to be making our filling. We'll cool the filling down, and then hopefully everything will sort of just come together. So I've got my water and my yeast, everything right here. As you can see, that's nice and foamy. That's what we're looking for. Get you right there. So then I've got my mixing bowl. I'm just going to go ahead and start measuring out ingredients. It's pretty simple dough, not too many moving parts. The yeast being really pretty much the only thing that is difficult here. But we're going to do 2 cups of flour, and we're going to scoop measure this. So that means I take the measuring cup, I go into the flour, I scoop it and shake it level. That's going to end up with a little bit more than quote unquote 2 cups of flour. If I was to measure this by the scoop method, I think I just said that this is the dunk method, I guess. The scoop method is where you take flour out and like put it into your thing, and you usually end up with a lot less flour when you do something like that, because it's when you're sort of dunking in there, you're compacting a little bit, and that's okay. We actually want a little bit more flour. That's what the recipe calls for, so that's why we're doing it. Any recipe that really cares about how much flour you put in there is almost guaranteedly going to just tell you to weigh it, because you're almost guaranteed to have a better measurement that way. This recipe is pretty easy. You can kind of go a little bit less, a little bit more. You know, you don't have to do everything perfectly, and it's still going to come out really good. So I've got my 2 cups of flour in there. I've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is one of the reasons why this recipe is so nice and easy, is the baking powder. Even if your yeast is completely dead or you don't do the yeast right, the baking powder is still going to do something. It's going to get you to a place where you at least have a little bit of rise going on in your dough. It's really going to sort of save our butts when it comes to making this perfect. And then the recipe calls for salt. I'm going to skip it because you know, I'm low salt, and you're gonna notice I'm going to skip some salty ingredients later too. Ham already has so much in it that you're really not going to miss it in this. And if you do find that you want more salt, just put it in there. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not the salt police, unless we're talking about policing myself, that is. Awesome, beautiful. So that's my flour, that's my baking powder. I've got my water and my sugar and my yeast right here. So we're just going to go ahead and get this kneading, and that's going to be it. That's going to be dough in no time, and we're going to have something really nice that we can work with to stuff for our dumplings. All right. You want to mix this on low, so that's like the first speed, not stir, but for me it's 2. You're going to put all that yeasty water mix in there, and then you're just going to make sure you want to make sure that that you get sort of scrape the flour off the side and actually form a dough before you leave it alone. You don't want to come back and find you just have like a puddle of muck in the middle and nothing else. So I'm just going to go ahead and scrape that flour down right now. Get this mixing real nice. Don't do that. I just pinched my fingers a little bit there. This is not so bad with the hook, but just be careful. Maybe use a little bit longer piece of equipment than I was. Okay, now we're looking good. Starting to come together in a dough ball. That's what we want. The dough, the flour off the sides is starting to come off as well. That should be perfect. I'm going to check back in with that as we go, but that should be just what we want. All right, perfect. Now while that's going, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and start working on our filling. Okay, timer 20 start. Beautiful. So the filling is pretty simple. It is we're just going to start with some garlic and scallions. Really nice mix. Onions and garlic, is kind of a classic way to start anything. Usually with Asian cuisine, you end up with scallions instead of onions. Mine are a little bit wilted, but that's okay. The whites are really the most important part. And I'm just going to use the rest of this bulb of garlic just because I absolutely love garlic, as many of you may already know. But stick with 2 or less if you don't want such a crazy flavor in there. Again, the ham, the pineapple, and the jalapenos are really going to come together and be a pretty intense flavor. So you probably won't even really notice if you put extra garlic in there, apart from the fact that it's just going to taste better. You're gonna be like, man, why does that taste so good? And the answer is going to be, it's the garlic, baby, because it's always the garlic. That's when somebody's asking you, man, why does your kitchen smell so good? It's the garlic. It's the alliums, the aromatics, if you will, things like fennel, celery, anything that has a really nice intense flavor. Usually also has a really nice intense smell that just makes kitchens into one of the best places to be in the house when people are cooking. I love a good aromatic. Herbs too, obviously. Really fabulous thing. And usually with aromatics, you want to protect that flavor, that smell, and so you tend to add them towards the end of cooking. But alliums, garlic, onions, and the sort are really unique in that sense, in that you actually want to put them in the beginning so they can start to develop even more flavors and sugars as they cook. Whereas that's a little hot already. Whereas herbs tend to break down. The oils tend to get lost if you cook them for too long. So alliums you want to cook a long time, really sort of make it more intense, deeper flavor. Things like herbs and other things you generally want to put in towards the end, or if you are doing it, you want to do a much lower heat. But garlic really can handle some serious heat, so we're not too worried about that here. And I'm just going to rough chop this. It doesn't need to be too crazy. It's going to get mixed out in pretty well. We don't want big chunks because they're going to make it really hard to fill up our bao later. But we do want to make sure that we have it pretty well chopped, but you don't have to waste too much time on it. And if you already have pre-chopped garlic, that's even better. Beautiful. Okay, there's our garlic, and then we're going to go for the scallions. Just line them up here. We're going to go tips to greens. Sometimes I go greens to tips. It just sort of depends. But in this case, I want the whites more so than the greens. So I'm going to start the green whites. Perfect. We're just going to cut these pretty thin. They don't need to be perfectly thin, but you just want them thin enough that they're going to break down pretty well. And when you go to stuff your dumplings later, or your bao, I should say, it's a form of dumpling. You are going to you're not going to be running into big sort of chunks that break your dough or make the sort of the nice smooth filling into anything else but nice and smooth. So we're just going to get some of these drier pieces out of here and just keep going. Perfect. My pan's nice and hot. I'm just going to go ahead and get these started to sort of sweat down. A little bit of oil in there. And we'll get our garlic going. I'm going to check on that dough, make sure she has come together nice. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's moving around the bowl on its own. It's all one piece. There's no wet spots. It's not sticking weirdly to the bottom. It's actually moving. That's all exactly what we want to see. That means that we have the right amount of moisture in there. And we're going to end up with something really beautiful when it's done. All right, garlic in the pan. Normally I'd brown this, but we're going, you know, I'm not really too concerned for like a deep garlic flavor. So I'm just going to follow the onions right away. I just want the garlic in there for their flavor. I don't necessarily want like a browned garlic like I would with maybe like a pasta dish or something that's a little bit lighter. This dip has so much flavor in it. I don't really need to work on adding too much more flavor. I just need to set up a really nice base for that flavor to stand on. And so onions and garlic is just a really great place to go for that. Awesome. I'm just going to turn my fan on. If you guys can't hear me, just put it in the chat. I usually try and basically yell at this point. So I think we should be good, but just pop it in there if you're having any troubles. Awesome. Cool. So I got sliced pineapple just because I feel like it's easier to cut it the way you want. You could use crushed pineapple if you don't feel like dealing with this part of the process. It's not just going to change your texture a little bit. One of the really nice parts about bao in general is it's a really, really smooth dough. And then the inside has a lot more texture, sort of not just texture, but sort of flavor and what's the word? Personality. It's really just sort of a nice little thing to have. So these are already sweating down. I'm just going to turn this heat off and just let them sort of hang out for a bit while I cut up my my pineapple and my ham. Smells great in here already. All right, cool. So we want about a cup of pineapple, which I found is about 2/3 of the can. And so we're just going to rock that. We're going to need some of the pineapple juice later, so just keep that. And then the way I found it's best to sort of cut this is I'll cut it right in half. I'll take those over there. And then I come here and I just want to cut nice little strips. And you don't have to do it so high like I am, you know. You can definitely, you know, take this in half and stack them up like this if you want. But you want to cut nice strips. And what'll happen is these strips will break down a little bit when we cook them. But we want them to be a little bit chunky. Again, texture is a big part of bao. It's what makes it really an exciting thing. You have a really, really soft dough, something that doesn't really give you much of a fight, kind of just falls apart. Really, really beautiful and fluffy and light. And then the filling tends to be not only very flavorfully intense, but also texturally intense. And that's part of the experience. That's what we're going for. So we want our things to be a little bit different size. We don't want it to all be necessarily uniform. That's all okay with us. You're going to see when we're cutting the ham as well. That's going to be kind of a big part of this. And if you're doing something like a barbecue pork or a char siu, which is what is often called the sort of the classic one, you find people usually doing like a hammer chop, and that's all. You know, you won't use ground beef or ground meat. You'll usually use a piece of roasted meat that's been cut by hand. And again, that adds a really nice personal flavor. And that might be too much pineapple. You know what? I got a bigger can. That's why. Oh, well, that's fine. We'll leave it there, and we'll just measure a cup off of that later. We're going to cut up our pickled pineapples or pickled jalapenos as well. Actually, you know what? Let's do the ham first. All right, so I got about a pound of ham here, and we're just going to stack it up into nice pieces. And we're going to start with like a cube chop, and then from there we're going to go and we're going to run a knife over it just kind of randomly, and that's going to help us to get to that dynamic texture that we're looking at. So what I'm doing here, I stacked it up. I'm going to cut sticks, and then I'm going to turn it to the side. And from there, I'm going to cut cubes, and that is going to give me a really nice chopped ham. And if I do this right, I might not even really need to run over at the end, because it does look like, yeah, it looks like this is pretty random sizes anyways, which is nice. And that's the trick. You know, using pieces of ham that are different sizes and shapes is going to get you different sizes and shapes of ham, even if you use the same cutting method throughout the whole thing. So that's a really nice thing about this spiral ham that I ended up using here today, is that it already has different shapes and pieces of all the different, you know, muscle fibers that grow around the bone. And so that's already giving us a nice sort of dynamic shape and size. So great. I'm going to go ahead and get this ham right in the pan right now. Just started to sort of render down. We want some of that fat from the ham to sort of melt a little bit, and the ham to get a little bit of caramelization on the outside. That's really going to help it to shine as our sort of main component of this dish. I'm just going to go ahead and keep rocking the rest of this ham. Stack this up as high as I can. Maybe a little ham snack. This is fully cooked, so don't you worry about me eating it raw like that. That is a-okay. All right, cool. Again, you're cutting into sticks, and then from sticks, you're going to turn that sideways. You're going to cut into cubes, and then just run your knife over it a couple times to get some really dynamic shapes. sizes and textures in there. And oh my gosh, if garlic and onions don't do it for you, a little bit of honey ham in there with it really just knocks it up. Okay, so I got these into sticks, turn them sideways. I'm going to take that and we're going to cube it. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you're just kind of doing it. If you wanted to, you could do this in the food processor too. Save yourself some time. I just hate doing the food processor for dishes, although I do have a dishwasher now, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, you just got to get it chopped up. Something that is not going to get in the way of you enjoying the bun, but is still going to give you a bit of a an experience with your mouth. You know, you don't want it to just be paste. You want it to have a little bit of bite to it. Beautiful. So that's the rest of the ham in there. Already starting to get a nice color. It's one of the benefits of using a cast iron is pretty much anything I put in there is going to come out tasting good because it's just got years and years of flavor sort of layered onto the pan itself. A good seasoned pan is just chef's best friend. Oh yeah, this looks good. Very good. I'm just gonna give you a little look. You can still see there's a little bit of green onions in there with that ham. Really, really nice. Next things we're gonna put in there are gonna be the jalapenos and the pineapple. And we're gonna glaze the whole pan and the meat by using some of that pineapple juice and some of the pickling liquid. And then we're gonna thicken that with the cornstarch slurry. It's gonna be absolutely amazing. All right, so let's get some jalapenos out here and start chopping them up as well. Again, it's about a half cup. So just kind of eyeball it, you know, put as much in there as spicy as you want. If you don't like spicy food, you can get, you know, pickled peppers that aren't spicy and you could use those, or you could skip this step entirely. Although I do find that the vinegar, the pickled aspect really does add a very nice flavor to this. It's a good combo. So you could use something like a mild banana pepper if you wanted to. And with these, I literally just have them in a pile and I'm chopping them like I would an herb. I'm just trying to sort of keep them together as I run my knife over them. And then I'm just going to come at that from another angle. That's going to hopefully cut them, you know, even smaller, so we don't have a bunch of strips of pineapple in there or strips of jalapeno in there. Back on, and then yeah, just going to kind of pile them up together. Thread my knife over them. You know, and I'll probably just mix them in with this pineapple. I think I've decided I'm going to use all the pineapple. Just looking at this pan, I think it can take it. It's probably just the right amount. It's maybe a little bit more than a cup, but I think maybe I might have had a little bit more than a pound of ham, and that's just how we do things over here. I always have a little bit more than I tell you guys to use, but I do promise you those recipes will work really good. I just tend to sort of cook with my heart and not so much the recipe. So I always end up with situations like this where I just have a little bit more than I anticipated and just gotta make it work, you know? All right, sweet. So that's all chopped up. We're gonna get this pan really, really hot, and we're gonna put this in here. And some of the liquid is already coming out of this ham, which is perfect. I've got a little bit of fat sizzling at the bottom, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And the color is really starting to come out, which is perfect. And I don't see any too big of pieces. If you do see some pieces that like are going to be too big, just try and break them up or even take them out and just eat them. That's a really quick way to get rid of the evidence. And our timing is perfect right here. I've got 7.5 minutes left on my dough. I feel like this is going to come together pretty quickly right here. So I got that nice and hot. And while I'm waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and get my juices together. So it's going to be a 1/4 cup of pineapple juice. And then a 1/2 cup of the pickling liquid of your choice. Beautiful. And that's it. This is basically, we're going to put this in the pan after this is all heated up. That's going to create a nice sort of liquid sauce. That's going to cook off really quick. It's going to start to stick to our meat. And then we're going to put a little bit of cornstarch slurry in there. And that's going to really solidify that bond. It's going to make the sauce into a solid. And that means we can put that sauce flavor into the dish without having our bao be too sticky. We don't want them to be wet, right? We want them to be, they're going to be a little bit wet just because they are a steamed product, but we don't want to be too wet. So this is streaming over here. I'm going to go ahead and put these in here. Finish up our filling. Beautiful. So nice. Clean this up a little bit. Got pickle juice everywhere. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to stir that in real quick. Get it heated through, and then I'm going to hit it with the juice and pickling liquid. And then really, honestly, not that far after that, because the pan is so hot, the liquid's gonna evaporate really quick. I'm gonna go ahead and get my slurry ready, like as soon as I put that liquid in there, so I can go ahead and thicken it up. Let's give you guys a quick look at what this looks like. Absolutely delicious. I mean, I could eat that right now just on top of rice. It'd be very similar to like a little sort of spam and rice dish, you know, very popular thing to do. You sort of wrap it up with nori and grilled spam. It's very, very tasty. So we're gonna put that liquid in there. Make sure this is on max volume, and then we're gonna go ahead and make our slurry. Slurry can be kind of any amount of cornstarch, depending on how much liquid you're trying to thicken. We're gonna go with a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of water. I think that's gonna be just the right amount. But you can always, you know, throw a little bit more slurry in there if you need to. And the water in here doesn't really count as liquid. It's really just something to make sure you don't get chunks of cornstarch. Guaranteed, any water you put in here is gonna just end up, you know, it's gonna end up just thickening into sauce. So we got that beautiful slurry mixed up, and make sure you scrape the bottom too. The cornstarch will usually stick, and if you you want to stir it right before you put it in there, because the cornstarch will settle. It does not get into suspension with water. It will come out pretty much immediately. So I'm just stirring this up, and I've got maybe like just a little bit of water in the bottom, or liquid at least in the bottom, but not so much that that it's like sort of coming up the pan or like you know, immersing any of my veggies in my ham. And I think that's just the perfect amount. That's what we want. We want it to be we want something to actually stick to the ham. So we want at least a little bit of liquid in there. So that's where we're gonna put my slurry in now. Beautiful. I'm just gonna stir that up, and you're immediately gonna see it start to thicken. The liquid from the bottom of the pan is gonna disappear. And if you put it in there too long, you're actually gonna get that slurry is gonna probably burn to the bottom. You're gonna get the water cooked out of the starch, and you're gonna end up with a sort of starchy mess in the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off right now. And that is looking beautiful. You can actually kind of, you can see the starch sort of doing its work. You're gonna feel the filling start to stick to itself, and it's gonna want to sort of stay together. You know, you're gonna be able to mound it up easier without it sort of falling down like before. You know, it's gonna stop being sort of a liquid that it was before, and it's gonna start acting a little bit more like a solid or like a putty or a paste, which is what we want. We want to be able to manipulate this easily so that we can shove it inside of our buns and put as much dang filling as we possibly can in there. Important part of any single process when you are cooking like this is you got to taste it and make sure this actually tastes good. Oh yeah, a little note there that you may have noticed, I did skip the soy sauce. Again, I'm just trying to keep it low salt for myself, but do feel free to put it in there. It's going to add a really nice flavor and bring this all together. So you can see it's very, very thick. I'm just going to taste this and make sure it tastes good. I don't see how it could taste bad though. Oh, it's so good. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Oh, it's spicy too. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, this is nice and cooked. There's no liquid at the bottom, which is exactly what we want. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this on a sheet pan, and we're gonna get it cooling down. All right, so I have a nice sheet pan in the fridge already, so it's nice and cold. This is gonna help us to rapid chill this, and I'm gonna put this back in the fridge. And we want as much surface area as possible, which is why we're putting it on a sheet pan in the first place. Oh, that smells so good. Let's scrape all that goodness out, and then just spread it out nice and thin on the sheet pan. This is going to help it to cool really, really quickly so that we don't have to wait to fill our buns, because that dough is almost done. We're about 2 minutes away from finished dough. And then once you get it here, you just want to kind of cut some holes in it, almost like a radiator. That's going to help it cool even faster as well. Perfect. Toss this in the fridge. We should have cool dough, cool filling in almost no time. Ooh, it's hot. All right, great. So you can already see like there's a little bit of like burnt on starch on the bottom of this pan, but water will get that right out. No problem. Pretty easy cleanup as long as you don't let it actually burn. And even then, it's not so bad. Cool dough's almost done, which is beautiful, and we are chugging along, guys. We're making good time already. What I love, you often go over time in these programs, which is a-okay. I do like cooking, so it's a lot of fun. But it's nice when you can have something like this that actually is pretty quick. You know, you can get home from work, put water and yeast in something, you know, go take a shower or change or whatever you got to do. 20 minutes later, that yeast water is ready to go. You can start your dough. While the dough's going, just like I'm doing, you can make your filling, and in about an hour you can have bao, which is just like, to me, such an insane experience because I've spent most of my life thinking about how, not most of my life, I spent some of my life thinking about how incredibly hard it is, honestly, to make bao fresh. Like, there's a reason why people really, really love it at dim sum and are often kind of obsessed with it, because it's not really that easy to make at home, or at least it used to not be that easy to make at home. But if you follow my simple instructions, I think you'll find that this is something you can pull together anytime you want, just a random weeknight. If you have the ingredients, you got flour and yeast in your house, you've got a bao bun. You just find anything you want from the fridge and chop it up, make a little glaze with something and some cornstarch, and you've got a bao filling. Like, it can be anything, your favorite thing, whatever your favorite thing is, do it. Put rice in there. You want risotto in there? Go for it. I'm not going to stop you. It's literally as long as it's wet and sticky and you can mold it, you can put it in a bao bun and steam it, and it's going to be delicious. So have fun with it. Like, the dough is really the lesson of tonight. The filling is just kind of a fun thing that I threw together because it's my absolute favorite pizza. That dough is probably done. There's my timer. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Oh, it's very beautiful. Okay, so this is absolutely one of my favorite doughs to work with, and it's because, how's my thumb? Oh, you know what? That's from the my dough hook went through the dishwasher, and anyways, it's fine. It's just a little bit of iron. It's not only really, really easy to work with, but it's so soft. I can't show you how soft this is, but like, it's just so nice. It's so nice and squishy, and it's so fun to play with, and it is absolutely tasty. And there's live yeast in there right now, so we're not going to waste any time because we want to try and get this shaped and formed and cut as soon as possible, so that that when that yeast starts to activate and starts to eat, starts to rise, we're not playing with it, we're not messing with it, we're not making it so that it can't do that. So we're just gonna, first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and get these separated. I'm gonna clean up my space here a little bit because I'm going to be using just the actual countertop. We need a nice dry countertop. All right, beautiful. I need my rolling pin. Woo. See, even best laid plans, you sometimes forget something, but pays to have a nice kitchen in that case where you know where everything is. So we're just going to get that nice and patted down, somewhat even, and then we're going to cut that in half. So this recipe makes 12. So each one of these is going to be 6. So the way we're going to do that, and you may have seen this if you saw me do dumplings before, is we're going to make this into a nice little piece as well. Wait, what am I doing? No. We're going to roll this one out. That's right. We're going to roll this one out into a little log. And you should be able to already feel this if you're working with it. Should be able to already feel it start to be rising beneath you. And part of that is because we're using that that baking powder, right? So that's actually activating right now. It's doing its first active. So then you cut that in half and you cut those into thirds. And those are going to be your buns. And they're not all going to be the same size, and that's okay. It's not going to be problematic at all. You're going to put as much filling as you possibly can into each one of them, and it's going to be perfect. Okay, awesome. So we cut that in half, and over there, and those into thirds. Beautiful. And I'm just going to toss those into a bag. I did have ready, so that they don't dry out too much. It's not going to be too problematic. Again, we're going to steam these, so like, it's not going to really be a problem if you let them dry out a little bit, but any amount of moisture you can keep in them is going to be helpful for the process. So we'll just pop those over there, and we're going to get our sort of sheets ready. So these are both of my my steamer sheets. They go into this beautiful aluminum steamer pot that I have over here, and it's really fabulous. They layer in one low and then one high. And you can actually see they've got little hex marks lined up for bao buns. It's kind of amazing. I'm going to be using some sort of organic protection here so they don't stick, but you can use parchment paper if you want to, or you can just go crazy and put them right on the pan. But I found that they tend to stick a little bit. So if you do that, I would put a little bit of spray oil on there first. So we're just taking out the ribs, mainly because they're going to get in the way. They're not going to allow this leaf to lie flat. We want the leaf to lie flat. It's going to mean that we're getting more even steam around our buns. So just want to get that stem out of there. And then you're basically just trying to cover everything on this so that, you don't have any metal for your bow to stick to. It doesn't have to be perfect. And don't worry about if you're covering holes on yours. The steam is going to get through there. It's going to cook this. These are permeable. It's not a problem. So I'm going to put that first one in here right now. And that's where we'll start layering up our bow once we start to fill them. And I'm going to set up the second one. The second one's going to hang on the counter until we are ready to load it up. All right. I think I have just enough, but we'll see. These ones are kind of nice, actually. These ones will have like little individual leaves for each bun. Okay, perfect. Nice and covered. Pop that over here, and then we'll start forming our first bun. I'm hoping that filling is going to be cool enough. It should be. It's a lot of surface area. So so you take our little nugget of dough, and we're gonna smush it down into the counter, and we're gonna take our rolling pin and we're gonna roll from the outside in. We're gonna roll from the outside in. What that's done is it's flattened one edge, but it's started to mound the dough in the center. And we're gonna turn it again from the outside in, outside in. Always from the outside in. You don't want to ever go all the way through your dough because we're trying to get a nice fat piece of dough in the center that is going to help us so that we don't have a bottom that falls out. So you got something that looks maybe a little bit more. You're going to see that little bit of fat sort of dough in the center. You want to try and keep that there as you roll. So you got something that looks a little bit like this. You can see hopefully in the center there's a little bump right there. And then I'm going to flip this over. So I've got a nice flat piece to work with, but that bump's still there. And what's going to happen, we're going to put our filling in the center. We're going to make our pleats. And then as we go, we're going to be stretching and squishing and pushing the filling in there. It's going to push out the center, and it should be just about the same size as the rest of the dough. So let me get that filling and see how it looks. I might just grab a spoonful at a time, but I think it should be cool by now. It's cool enough. Yeah, cool enough to touch. That's all that really matters. All right, great. I've got a spoon. So we're going to make 12 of these. So you want to sort of take your filling, give it a little stir, get those cool bits incorporated with the hot bits, so you don't have anything that's too hot there. And then just sort of cut it up into 12 sections, whatever that looks like for you. You can put it in a bowl if that's easier, but I like to just sort of spread it out on my sheet pan and then just do some math. So 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to cut it 2 times lengthwise and 3 times, which will give me a nice half and half, give me a nice little sort of sectioned off piece. So I know that right there, that's 1 bun. Perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and slip this under here, and we're going to start filling. You're just going to sort of rapid fire watch me do this, and then we're going to steam them. We're going to eat. It's going to be great. Any questions? No questions so far. Awesome. It seems like I've been pretty informative then. So we're just going to mound this filling in here, and use as much or as little as you want. I'm going to use literally all of it just because I know I can, because bow is really nice like that. The dough is super stretchy. I'm going to show you this a couple times, and then I'm just going to kind of do it in front of you. So what you're going to do is you want to pinch one edge just like that. Cool. Make a little pinch. All of the pleats are going to go to this same thumb. I'm going to use this finger to squish them in. My other hand is going to rotate the package as I make the pleat. So I'm going to make a pleat and I'm going to squish it in. I'm going to make a pleat and I'm going to squish it in every time I rotate the package a little bit. Use my thumb to shove the filling in there. We just keep making pleats and keep shoving the filling in and keep rotating the package, keep making pleats, etc., etc., etc. Eventually, you're going to get to something like that, just barely open. You're going to make one final pleat. You're going to squish that all nice together, give it a little spin, and you've got a bow bun. All right, so let's just do that a whole bunch more times. Again, like I said, I'm going to show you a couple of these, and then I'm just going to kind of do them. All right, so again, outside in, outside in. We're just trying to get this thin enough on the outside so that I can work with it, but have a nice thick middle so that when I push that filling in there, it doesn't get too thin. And this one's going to be a little bigger than the other one, which is great. Be able to fit more, a little bit more filling in there. So again, nice little circle, bubble in the middle, flip it over so you got a nice flat working surface, and then stuff it full. Perfect. So again, pinch one corner, just like that, and then everything's going to go to that same spot. I might have put too much filling in this one. That's okay though. We'll make it work. Get in there. We got it. As long as you can close it, it's going to be okay. Again, all of those pleats to the same place. Gather it all together. Give it a nice little spin. That's going to seal it too, especially this one, which is way too full. And you got a nice little bun. Pop it right in there to proof. Let's do our next one. I'll show you one more time, and then we're just going to rapid fire these. Again, outside in, rotate it every time. Okay, flip it over, like I said. I'm gonna go ahead and get some filling here. Get over there. And if you roll it out a little bit more too, you'll get more filling there. I mean, that's like a massive amount of filling, but so it goes. So again, you pinch one little piece right there. That's going to be where all of your pleats go. And then you're just going to work your way around the outside, making those pleats and shoving the filling in. Again, I probably put too much in here, but that's okay. You know, you can always take a little out if you want to, but I always just tend to just sort of shove it down and make the pleats happen. But that one, some of it just fell out, which is fine. Okay, nice messy pleats. Push that filling down. A couple more pleats and we'll be closed here, which is what we want. Perfect. And then a nice little twist at the top. Pat it down, and you've got a decent little top there. Perfect. All right, we're going to rapid fire mode. Get the rest of these out, and then we are going to steam, and we'll be ready to rock after that. If you have any questions, now's the time to be thinking about them. We're gonna have a little bit of time here while this steams, where we're gonna get to just kind of chat and hang out. But I want to make sure you guys get to see this finished product. It is so much fun. Oh my gosh, guys, I forgot to put the cheese in. Don't worry. Aha. All right, so 2 cups of cheese. Sometimes these things happen, you know? Okay, those first ones are going to be super tasty, but these other ones are going to be the absolute best. So we're just going to mix that cheese into the filling we have here already. No problem whatsoever. I don't know how I missed the cheese. I was literally just thinking about the beautiful pull I was going to do. I was going to rip one of these beautiful steamed buns open, and then I was going to show you how amazing this cheese looks in there. And I was like, wait a minute, there's no cheese in there. So there we go. We just mix the cheese in. That's perfect. Not a problem at all. It's still going to be really, really tasty without the cheese, but it's going to be even better with the cheese. So this is definitely an essential part of the process. I was wondering why I didn't have like way too much dough or way too much filling, because I did use that extra ham and a little bit extra pineapple, but that explains it. I hadn't put the cheese in yet. All right, cool. No problem. Vic found that before we really made the mistake. And that's why mise en place is important too. All those ingredients are right in front of you. If you get to the end of the dish and there's still an ingredient in front of you, you probably forgot something. All right, so cheesy mixture right in the center there. And let's just go to town, guys. I'm gonna pop you guys right at the right location. Cool. Let's go. Fold, pleat, spin, fold, pleat, spin. It's a little bit easier from this angle for me too, which is nice. I can really overstuff them, which is everything I could ever hope for. Perfect. We're gonna do 6 per layer because we do have 12 total. Should be exactly what we want. How are we looking on time? Not too shabby. We're about to be like, honestly, pulling these out right about on time, which is not too bad for something considering it's usually a very long process. I'm gonna make these just a little bit bigger than I had been, just so they're easier to fill. Again, flip them over and just fill them up. Sort of abandon the sort of filling portioning I had done before. I'm just gonna fill them up as much as I feel like I can. All right, back to the pleating. And if you've ever seen that really beautiful Disney short called Bow, you've seen there's this really good scene at the beginning where she actually makes the bow. And if you've ever watched her do that, it's like magic. I don't think I will ever be that good at folding bow in my entire life. And that's okay. You know, that's an old grandma who's been doing it her whole life probably. And And she doesn't think anything twice about just whipping up a batch of bao for dinner, even if it does take a couple hours. So anyways, but watch that. It's actually one of the things that got me really excited about this process and sort of showed me the concept of this push that we're doing for the rolling. I just couldn't get my brain around it until I saw that video, and then it was like, oh, that's how you do it. And she does it in like 3 goes. It's like crazy. I don't know. That lady has some sort of crazy bao magic. Anyways, shove this one super full. Again, pleats, 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 all gathered into the same place. When you're doing something like a dumpling, like a pot sticker, you want to move where your pleats are, but here they're all going to the same place. And then we're just stirring, sort of twisting them. And that's what creates those nice little dudes. There's 6. That's our first layer. Sweet. Put our next on top. We are almost ready to rock. Get over here. All right, that's a nice big one. Beautiful. I'm gonna put so much filling in this one. And if you do have any filling left over, you can always just put it in, make some more dough, or it works really good just as like a sloppy Joe kind of, toast some bread, put this right in there, maybe heat it up in the oven so that the cheese melts. But yeah, it's actually a really good filling for just like a sandwich as well. This one might be one of my best ones. Yeah, I love that. Like the pleating is so much fun. I love when I first started doing this, I could not do the pleats. And then I've realized that that was when I kind of figured out, oh, it's not a dumpling. Like it all goes to the same place. And once I figured that out, it just changed everything. I've been trying to do like some really, really complex folding to get these closed. I don't know if you guys can see my cat's up on the counter over there. I think she wants some ham. She's super cute. Let me just pop you up so you can see her. Hi, Biscuit. How you doing? All right, cool. Back to bao. I gave her a little bit of ham earlier, and I thought she had been satiated, but she has smelled it yet again, I think. All right, flip that over. Bunch of filling. This cheese actually makes it a little bit easier to fill. It's a little less sort of gushy and soppy, and a little bit more cohesive. The cheese strands really help sort of keeping this all together. So this is actually, it's nice that I remembered to put it in there, considering it is probably one of my favorite parts of this dish. I've had a lot of bao in my time. I absolutely love bao. Oops, I put that too far down, I think. But I've never had it with cheese in it before. And as soon as I put cheese in these, I think I just sort of unlocked like a part of my brain that hadn't been sort of hidden. And I don't think I can ever have bao without cheese. I mean, I can, obviously, it's delicious, but it's just like, it's so nice. It's almost like a mozzarella stick kind of, it's got that same sort of like carbo loading vibe that just makes my belly happy. I love a good carbohydrate. Hence why my cat's name is Biscuit, and my old cat used to be named Muffin. I just love a good carb. What are you going to say? I'm actually in the process of getting a new cat right now. Current name is Hank, but I'm thinking we're going to call him either Linguini or Toast. Very, very cute cat. It's just like a classic little black tabby, but he's so, so nice and kind and beautiful. And I can't wait for him to be in my house and interrupting our food programs. So again, just as many pleats as you possibly can, and then a nice little twist, and you've got about. All right, 3 more, guys, and then we're gonna pop these in. I'm gonna grab a seat and just sort of hang out, rehydrate as these ones steam. Again, any questions you have, that's gonna be the time. We'll probably kind of do like we'll chat about Chefla Cooks on the website. I know some of you guys haven't checked out the YouTube yet, but I'll make sure to give you guys all that information. Yeah, we'll just talk about anything you guys want. I'm up for any question. It doesn't have to be about bao. Any sort of food question, always really happy to answer, assuming I know the answer. Which if I don't, a lot of times I just make it up. All right, pleat, pleat, pleat. Push that filling in there. This one's definitely going to be nice and stuffed. And as many pleats as you can. I think like there's supposed to be like 13 or something. It's like some sort of lucky number thing. I don't actually know exactly how many it is. One for each year that you have lived or something crazy like that. That's not what it is, but I just do as many as I possibly can that makes sense. This last one's going to be really, really tiny. Oh, you little guy. That's okay. All right. Big enough. Beautiful. Again, this is why I just really love this dough, is you can just abuse it so much and it won't split. It just keeps itself together no matter how much filling you shove in there, no matter how much you mistreat it, it just sticks together. It's got, I mean, 20-minute knead time is going to develop quite a lot of gluten, so that definitely helps. And then just everything about this recipe is designed to be a very, very kneadable, moldable, and stickable dough. Beautiful. This is almost the exact same ratio of water to flour as our classic dumpling dough that we use, or the scallion pancake dough, which is part of why it's so easy to work with. That amount of hydration just tends to be a really, really nice place for dough to be for working with your hands. And so that's part of why I really think this works so well, is it's a very similar sort of ratio to normal dumpling dough, which I also really, really like. But the yeast gives it just an entirely different vibe, as well as the baking powder. It makes it a little bit more airy, a little bit more light, and a lot easier to stretch. So awesome. We've got these in here. Now, usually this is when you'd proof them. You let them hang out with the lid on for about a half an hour, but I'm not going to put you guys through that. We're going to go ahead and cook them right now. They're going to turn out no problem delicious. So I have cold water in the pan. I got my buns in there. I am turning the heat to high, and I'm setting my timer for 15 minutes. At 10 minutes past, when there's 5 minutes remaining, that should be steaming at full blast. If that is the way it is, then we know they're going to be done when it's over. They really only need 5 minutes of steaming, but because of the way that we're doing this dough and because of the sort of quick process and that we're trying to rise it, that beginning heat up time where the water's starting to boil and it's getting some hot water in there, so a little bit of like baby steam, that's going to be really important. That's essentially how we're sort of powering through the proofing process. It's going to proof rapidly in that time before it starts to actually rise and cook. And we got a little bit just filling here, but that's okay. Let's see how it tastes with the cheese. I should have tried that before. So good. Oh yeah, this is going to be a good dinner. Pull up a chair, hydrate with you guys while we wait for this to come together. I was thinking about doing a like a sauce to dip these in, but honestly, it doesn't need it. Call our new cat Bow. That's actually not a bad idea. I might bring that up to Alexandra. Bow the kitten. I might just do some cleaning too while I'm here. Maybe I'll do that. Let me get up a little bit. Anyways, don't see any other questions yet, which is totally fine. I am always happy to know that you have been well informed and trying to know what you're doing. So, but literally any question whatsoever, I'm here for you. Doesn't even have to be about cooking, you know? I got a couple of good life tricks, I bet. Putting all my stuff away. These leftover pineapple juice is always good for a nice little cocktail, if you are so inclined. I don't really drink myself, but I love a good pineapple cocktail for my partner. You can also mix it in with the glaze that came with my honey ham, and that would make an even better glaze to put on top. Cool. Well, this is something we don't get to do often. I feel like last time I just sort of like hung out and sat down and stared at the camera with you guys was when we were doing the summer program, the old one, the Men Can Grill, I think is what we called it, back when Virginia was around, and we just would hang out. We hung out in the chair as I waited for the grill to get to 400 degrees. We're getting there. We're making time, and you're going to see this thing behind me start to just like boil water soon. And then I will show you the absolute perfection that we have created tonight.
Where did you get your steamer from, actually?
Oh yeah, sure. So I got it from just like a big Asian grocery store, and it was cheap. It was like so cheap. I think it was like $15 or something. It's just aluminum,
wow.
Bunch of aluminum, and so it's one of those things that's like a staple. You know, like you have to have a steamer, or you're just not going to be able to make most of the food that exists in some Asian cultures. And so, bamboo steamer is sort of a classic go-to, but if you don't have the right pan to put the bamboo steamer on, you're not going to end up with anything good. Usually you want something like a wok that has like a sort of curved base, and then the steamer itself sits above, the bottom, which is nice where you put your water and you can steam from. But Yeah, I really like this. It's one piece. The only thing it doesn't work with is like an induction burner because it's aluminum, but that's okay. And it's already starting to warm up, which is great. I can see a little bit of steam sneaking out. So we are in a good place. I got somebody asking me, the PDF is missing the second page. I think there is only supposed to be one page.
Yeah, it's only one page.
Yeah, I don't I had the recipe too. I don't think they're missing anything. I'm pretty sure the instructions were complete. But if there's something that you feel like you're missing, ask me now, and I will tell you what the answer is from the instructions. Yeah, it should just be the one page, I believe. Hydration is important, guys. I don't drink enough water when I cook, but
Oh, also, I got another question over here.
yeah.
It was about if you don't have a stand mixer, any suggestions for easy ways to knead the dough?
Don't. Honestly, just don't knead the dough as much. You have to knead the dough some, and one of the reasons why I really like the stand mixer is that I can knead the dough while I'm cooking my filling. It's a beautiful part of the process, so it makes this sort of a quick dinner instead of like a process. But just don't. You don't have to knead the dough for 20 minutes. It's going to make it really smooth and elastic. It's going to be great. But if you're going to eat them that night, it's not going to matter. 10 minutes is probably what you want to sit at. That you still need to incorporate the dough and get it mixed together and get it nice and smooth and silky. But yeah, just make your filling, and while your filling is cooling, mix your dough. So basically do the opposite of what we do. Do your dough after the filling is cooling. That way, as soon as you're done with the kneading, the 10 minutes of kneading, you can just immediately start filling them. And if you do it only 10 minutes, I would definitely do a bit longer proof too, because part of what's happening in there while it's kneading is the yeast is getting mixed in to the flour and starting to eat that flour and start to come alive even more. So if you're going to lower the kneading process a little bit, you might want to actually do a full 30-minute proof, just so the yeast has some time to sort of get its bearings before you steam it into oblivion. But yeah, that's what I would do. There's not really any other tricks. There's no good way to knead apart from having a dough hook. You can't put it in a food processor because it's too sticky. It will bind the machine. In no time, you're going to have the machine just blowing the circuit breaker. So yeah, there's not really like a good way apart from just doing it by hand, which is just what it is, hand kneading is a lot of fun, especially with this dough. This dough is so soft and delicious and beautiful. So it's actually kind of fun to knead it and work with it by hand. But yeah, get a stand mixer if you can. And obviously, no worries if you don't have one. What I would do is just you'd want to use chopsticks, kind of similar to what we do for a dumpling dough in a bowl. Mix it up until you get something that you can turn out onto the table, and then you just want to knead it until it gets nice and smooth and elastic, and then you're good to go. And you're going to be able to feel it much better when you're doing it by hand, anyways. So you'll know when to stop. Whereas with part of why we do 20 minutes is because we just want to let that go and do it. It's a dough hook kneads decently, but you definitely need a lot better with your hands. So you'll probably get it done in 10 minutes, no problem anyways. Yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, sure. Discuss other suggestions for the filling was one of our next questions. So the classic filling would be a barbecue pork filling. You can either buy like a cooked, so you can see some steam coming out right now. That's perfect. We're at 8 minutes, so that's awesome. We're definitely going to have done buns. So a barbecue pork filling would be really good. I do something, you can either literally just use like any barbecue sauce you like, but again, you want to make sure you stick it. So you need to make a slurry with that cornstarch. Very important part of the process. But you want to take a piece of cooked pork butt or loin or something and chop it up into pieces. And then, again, onions and garlic is kind of like what we did, and then stick that sauce to it. Classically, the sauce is made using oyster sauce and Chinese five spice, which has star anise, which is one of like the main sort of flavors of that barbecue sauce. And then and you can put chili flake in there if you want to, and then soy sauce and wine. There's this particular type of Chinese wine that they usually use. Very hard to find in the States, but you can just use like sherry vinegar if you want. Another really good one that you can put in there is literally just cheese. Just put chunks of cheese in there. It's so good. It's like a little cheesy bun, pão de queijo, if you're familiar with that, except instead of baked, it's steamed. And you can bake this dough too. It's a full yeast spread dough. Like if you wanted to bake these, I would probably let them proof for half an hour to 45 minutes. And then you can pop them right in the oven and bake them. Maybe do like an egg wash so you get a nice glaze. And that'd be really nice for something like the cheese filling. But honestly, my favorite way to do it is just like a I usually have venison on hand, so I'll do like a barbecue venison with a little bit of gochujang, which is a sweet chili paste, and then just go from that, glaze that onto it, and call it a day. But I just tend to have an abundance of venison. Usually venison neck, I'll like braise the neck and then chop it up and use that. That's really good. What else could you put in there? I mean, you can do sweet bao too. Like there's ones that have like a bean paste in there as well. Like a sweet red bean paste is really tasty. I mean, you could put any kind of dessert in there you wanted to. I already said earlier you could put risotto in there. I mean, you generally want something that has a little bit of moisture, so it's kind of creamy. It isn't going to dry out, but not too much moisture that it's going to make the bun soggy. So anything that has that sort of tacky feel, like risotto or this that we made. Let's see, I'm trying to think of something else fun that you could put in there. I mean, you could do like actual pizza too, like put some like pepperoni and pizza sauce in there, with more mozzarella again. Oh, you know what I was thinking about at work actually today was doing a Reuben one with sauerkraut and corned
That
beef
sounds
and
delicious.
and put some caraway seed in there to sort of like give the rye feel. And I guess you could probably use rye flour. We don't really care much about the gluten. The gluten's important, obviously, for like the stretchy bit, but if we don't overstuff our buns, gluten's not as important. So we could use rye flour for the dough, and that would really sort of like bring it home as far as Reubens are concerned. Reuben is one of my absolute favorite foods. I actually have a tattoo of a man Snorlax eating a Reuben, so it's been a part of my life for a long time. My grandpa Hanson actually, that's my mom's dad. He used to eat a lot of Reubens, and he brought me out for my first Reuben, and we had very important grandfather life discussions about the stages of acceptance, which is an absolute fabulous sort of thing that he used to teach his college students. I won't bore you with the entire experience now, but basically the concept is you're at a party, things you'd never thought you'd learn in a Chef Look Cooks program. You're at a party, you see somebody from across the room and you want to talk to them, and so the stages of acceptance have to do with how you discover that you can eventually get up to that person and talk to them. And one of them is like smell, I think it's number 6 or something. And he'd always talk about how like dogs is very important. Smell is super important to them. It's how they tell the difference between people. If somebody doesn't smell good, that might just make it very hard for you to be accepting of them. And as you get closer, like touch is a very important one, especially, with us in COVID lately, getting really close to people and touching them has been a very sort of interesting thing as far as trusting and accepting people. And this is a bunch of college students, right? So at the end, he'd always ask, hey guys, what do you think the last one is? And of course, he'd never mentioned sort of the thing that a lot of people, I won't bother mentioning now, but a lot of people think is like the best part of acceptance. And so college students would be like, oh yeah, it's that, it's going home with them. And he'd be like, no, you're all wrong. And the last stage of acceptance is just talking to them. Being able to talk to someone and not be worried about what they're going to think about what you say, or really caring about their opinion of you. That is like the last stage. That always feels really nice. It's just that casual intimacy with someone to be able to speak your mind. And so I will always think of Reubens and my grandfather and being accepted all at once. So they're a very special piece. And so I guess that would be my favorite filling. And I actually think I'm going to just try and make that. Like I have some corned beef in the freezer from St. Patty's. So that might be on the docket. I might just make a big batch of dough, use up the rest of that ham, make some corned beef, whatever else I can fit in there too. Maybe I'll try a dessert one too. So good question. Thanks for that. A little trip down memory lane and a nice little side go into Chef Look's philosophy class.
Yeah. You should invite over some of your favorite people to just talk with.
Oh man, that'd be
And
great.
eat-
Well,
and
a
eat
lot of my
those.
favorite people who have all these beautiful platitudes and stuff are no longer with us, unfortunately. But yeah, that'd be fun. I could just now I got to think about a tribute series, just all my favorite people who are no longer with us.
Beautiful.
Meatloaf has to be on there, of course. Reuben's got to be on there. We're brewing in my head. But yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about YouTube. I totally forgot to talk about YouTube. Don't forget to check out Edgartown Library YouTube. You just go to Google, search Edgartown Library YouTube. You'll get right there. Right at the top is Chef Look Cooks. It goes back 2 years, like all the way to when we started this back during the pandemic. It's great. It's so much fun food and delicious things. And Trash Panda EPL. That's Trash Panda EPL. Like Edgartown Public Library is an old archive of some food that I cooked during the pandemic as well. Really, really great place. I even go there sometimes when I like forget how to make something that I really, really love. It's got some really nice things on there, really good sesame dressing. that is just a fabulous thing to dip dumplings and such in. There's a really good smashed cucumber there as well, which is something you may recognize from the pizza, the scallion pancake pizza. There's just a lot of really good recipes, some fabulous cocktails as well. We were definitely getting our cocktail game on. There's a ginger beer and sesame oil cocktail on there with rye whiskey that is top notch. It is so good. Highly suggest checking that out if you like whiskey or ginger or sesame. It's all three things in one place, and to this day, I'm still asked to make it, and I still have to look up the recipe because I just always forget. It's an insane amount of booze, which is part of why I'm like, there's no way there's that much in there. There is. It's a lot, but it's really tasty. So we are a minute away from fabulous buns. I'm gonna get a plate ready and some chopsticks so I can show you guys these, and we're gonna do the beautiful break, and then we're gonna call it a program, and I will see you all next month. Next month is the last of our dough series. If you know anything about the holidays at the beginning of the month, you may have an idea of what sort of culture we're at least going to be cooking from. But the filling that I'm using at home is not going to be anything normal. So I hope you guys are excited for that. All right, let me get a plate and let me show you what these look like. All right, pop that down there. Ooh, they look so good. All right, I'm going to show you this real quick. Guys, look at how amazing they are.
These are beautiful.
They're so poofy. Every time I do this dough, I swear it turns out better than the time before. All right, so we're gonna get this nice and big floofy one. I'm just gonna toss the top back on there. These are best if you let them sort of hang out in the steam. You turn the heat off and just let them hang for like 10 minutes or so. Because of the way we did this, and it's sort of a quick rise, they tend to sort of deflate pretty quick if you don't give them a chance to sort of set. And so letting them cool down a bit in the steam helps to set those proteins from the oh, nice. You can sort of see the imprint of the leaf on it. I love that. Anyways, I'm gonna crack this open, and I'm gonna show you the really, really cool, gushy, hopefully. So usually for bao, I flip them over when I'm eating because the filling is mostly towards the bottom, and so you want to have it on the nice thick top, and you want to rip them open. And that's going to help let some of the steam out, and we're going to get this really beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't that so nice? You can see all of our ham and pineapple inside, a little bit of jalapeno. I'm not going to eat this because this will literally destroy my mouth and burn me to all oblivion. But that's what I'm talking about. That is a pineapple pizza bao done so right. Thanks for showing up, guys. Thanks for hopefully enjoying this. I really do hope that you all give this a shot. As someone who spent a lot of time in my life thinking about how hard it was to make bao, I cannot believe how amazingly easy this is. So please do try it at home. It's so easy. It's literally just yeast and flour and whatever you want to shove in there. So enjoy, and I'll see you next month, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. This is wonderful.
See ya.
Have a good night. Bye.